Good afternoon, everyone. Gabe Velazquez here with you, transparenttrading for a Friday, 3rd of March. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody had a great trading week. So let's get right into the markets. Just when you thought these ranges couldn't break, I was actually just having a discussion over the week, right? Oh, these markets, they can't break out of these ranges and whatever. And that's very typical. Markets always confound and get you riled up and whatever. So, what caused the rally? Again, it's very interesting. Some people pointed out at some dovish comments by it actually kicked off yesterday. If you remember, about midday, some dovish comments coming from um, particular Fed speaker and so forth that you can clearly see on the charts the algorithm coming in, and then the continuation of the rally. As I've been discussing, in my estimation, now we were short TTS. We were short coming into yesterday. But we did take out a break-even trade because clearly the market wasn't cooperating and going down. We actually came down to that 39.25 level that I discussed with you guys on Tuesday, and so we literally just tapped that. That's a level off a pivot that we like to talk about. If you want to see what those levels are that we're looking at, we're actually looking at a couple of levels coming up here on the upside. If you are interested in joining me for 5 free days, go ahead and hit the link below. Also, if you want to sign up for the newsletter and all that good stuff. Okay. All right. And I will have I am going to be doing a class coming up, not this next week, but the following week. So I will be announcing that as well. Okay. So where are we at? We finally broke above the 40.32 high. We had been in this kind of rangy, kind of messy trading range. And so now that we have broken above that, now we go back into where we broke down from, which is roughly around 4,100. If you recall, we were sitting up there for the entire month of February and then finally broke down. So we're going to probably retest that. There are some levels up around the 40, 65, 40, 90 area that could be possible shorting opportunities. Okay, so we got that. NASDAQ, similarly, right around the 12,500 level on the NASDAQ. It did also break above the highs. It did take out a pivot low, which again, I think trapped a lot of shorts where, we were looking at that, these levels below 12K and actually did take out a bunch of pivots, particularly that 111,867, and then just came back. So I believe that caught a lot of people off sides, especially breakout traders and whatever. Again, as we've been really, it's been the case for the most part, literally for the last 6-7 months. Everybody just kind of piles into one direction, and then the market obviously punishes the majority when somebody, when people are leaning to one side or another. So in any event, again, very similar. We've got 12,400 on the NASDAQ. Could be another level coming in. So keep an eye on that for next week. We do have, by the way, we have Powell testifying in front of Congress, I believe, on Tuesday and Wednesday, or both branches of the government. And then we have the big non-farm payrolls on Friday of next week. Remember, we have the shortened month didn't get the non-farm payroll. So we'll have to see that. Clearly, that's going to be, I believe that non-farm payrolls next week is going to be huge, because again, with all the hot inflation numbers that have been coming through, and essentially the sell-off that we just went through, that's being retraced now, actually kicked off due to that January hot. Remember that 500,000 blockbuster jobs number? So it's going to be uh, it's going to be so critical that we do not have another hot number next Friday, or else this market's going to turn right back down again. Rates are going to come up. So the story this week was the interest rates, but we did calm down. And that was the other thing. Rates did come down from yesterday. And I think that also was a bit of a tailwind for stocks today as well. Speaking of which, the 10-year did bounce off the 110.09, 109 distribution area. If you look at the charts, you can see that it's a nice daily accumulation level or demand zone, whatever you want to call it. And we did have a nice bounce. We still have a bunch of resistance at 112, however. So this is really going to be still the driving force. Generally, you can clearly see as the 10-year started rallying from yesterday and continue going today, that also translated into higher stock prices. So that's really going to be really important that we do not fall below the lows now, 110, and that's the yield above 4%. So that's going to be really interesting for next week. On the bond market, dollar just kind of meandering, putting in another range here, more or less 104.40 to 105.40. You can see that kind of just a big cluster of trading going on there in the dollar index, which is interesting because even as rates, even as stocks were rallying, it did not, typically, you have a big break in the dollar. And so now the dollar's kind of just churning and burning there. In relation to the currencies, we were in the peso. I think I mentioned that to you guys the other last Tuesday. We did stop out of that with a loss because the dollar was all over, and the peso really very interesting that's really the only currency that has any kind of movement. It's been very, very strong. I mean, you look at that chart, it's getting super extended, finally coming up to another level. And it's really fascinating what is driving the Mexican peso, because that seems to be just on a tear. Possibly, people were asking me today, is it oil? Is it, well, no, oil. I mean, oil could be. Oil did rally. We'll talk about that in a second. We are coming into that 56 area in the peso from back in 2017. So it's really interesting how strong the peso is at, and it is related to the dollar. So as long as the dollar doesn't rally, we're probably going to get strength in the peso. So I would not be, even though we did try that short, because we thought that maybe if stocks continue falling, the dollar would rally. That was kind of the premise there, but clearly that didn't happen. So very, very strong. Perhaps it stops at 56.00 on the Mexican peso. So that's a level we'll be looking at. Also related to the dollar, silver started picking up. We actually covered our silver puts as well at the end of the day today. So we are no longer in the silver puts, but we do have some calls still left. All in all, not a great, because, even though the puts are showing a profit, but it was a strangle. So the other side is still, we still have to have a big rally. But all in all, we are out. We don't want to give back a bunch on the puts. We also, by the way, here at TTS, bought some calls on NEM, which is Newmont, which essentially is a gold play. We bought some calls on that. So now we're long gold, and ostensibly these are a little far of the money, but long silver as well. Okay, so we'll see how that goes with that, and go from there. So we are tied into those two markets now for next week. Nat gas had a huge run up to $3 today. And as I mentioned, we're in boil. We added to that position at in the low sixes. So we are finally picking up a little bit. Again, still not a great, still not, we have a smaller position. But again, as the percentages increase, remember, just a quick reminder, everybody, oil runs on percentages. It resets every day. And so what happens is at $7.50, still, even a 10% move or a 15% move is not that big a deal. But once, we get above 3 and 4 in nat gas, that will really start changing the dynamics. Once we get into, the teenager, if you will, $10-15 range in the nat gas and the oil, then the numbers really start, really picking up. So, you can have like, $2-3 moves in that thing once you get a higher and higher price. So it's going to be interesting to see. So far, so good on that. But we still, our target on that is 6. If that does happen, we should be, again, just based on, some rough calculations, we should be sitting in the 30s, because again, it's gonna pick up because of the resetting every day. So, but it did have a really nice pop as well, and hopefully we can get a big gap. Weather's changing. We're also trying to get long oil. Still in a big range between, the 82.50. We're coming up to this 80.5 level on oil. We did have a really nice pop in that. This morning, it actually was falling off and then rallied. Next level is going to be that 80.5 level. So we'll see what happens. We still haven't been filled on that. So we still have to get a little bit of a pullback to get back into because again, I'm still looking at oil, much higher prices in oil. Okay. So that's that. And then not much else on the grain front. Corn is the only one we're looking at, above 670. There's some levels up there. We broke below. That's around the 670 is where we broke that recent range. So that's going to be something for us to look at as well on the short side in corn. And then copper, just kind of going through the different markets. Copper also it's kind of been forming a big range now. Did pull back from, I think we mentioned this level 420. So big range in copper. But other than that, the last thing I will mention is the VIX now back below 18. I'll probably write about it this weekend. Last time we hit 17, by the way, everybody, on the VIX, that was actually, you can look at the low on the VIX, which is 17, February 2nd, which is exactly when the market peaked. The S&P, that is very interesting. I don't know if you guys realize that, but the day that the VIX hit 17, that was the day that the S&P hit 4208, and that's when we had, we basically sold off several hundred points off of that. So it's going to be, with the VIX closing at 18, where did it close today? VIX closed at 18.5. That means that we may have a little bit more upside, but right around the 17 to 16 level, it's going to be, if that coincides with some distribution areas in the S&P, that could be very, very interesting. Okay. All right, everybody. I think that's all I wanted to cover. So, more or less, just to kind of wrap things up, we've got, I'll see you on Tuesday, but we do have testimony from Powell on Tuesday. We have the non-farm payrolls. So expect a lot more chop, a lot more volatility. Whether we continue this rally, clearly now the market's gotten pretty extended. It caught a lot of people offside with the VIX back down. Maybe all the bears are going to start backing down a little bit, but we'll have to see what happens there with next week. But it's going to be another great week of trading now that we've broken out of these ranges and now that we're approaching some levels to short against. Also, buying low and selling high is still what's working right now, as you know. I mean, not chasing, anybody that was, again, we came in short, but we were short from, 30, 40 points higher and expecting it to go lower. So, because we broke that little tiny range, but even now that we're actually rallying, we want to get positioned for another drop, especially again with the VIX coming back down, more complacency. Now that a lot of the puts and a lot of the bears are pretty much getting washed out, we may be setting up for another drop, especially again, hot inflation numbers and interest rates. Maybe if interest rates bottom, by the way, in other words, if we had a cooler inflation number and interest rates don't go much higher, then you got to pay attention. But again, a lot more of the same stuff. Okay. So again, if you want to spend 5 days with me for free, go ahead and sign up on the link below. Also, give me a thumbs up, and I want to grow the channel. I'm gonna change a few things. I probably will do not a live recording, but a recording where I can go through the charts and just post it on here. I'll let you guys know on Twitter. I'll do that probably once a week. Aside from maybe the Friday, I'll stay live and then do another one where it's just a video recording where I'll run through some charts and stuff at various markets. It'll just be a recorded situation. So look for that next week, starting next week. Okay. Maybe do a little bit of lesson. Anyways, have a great weekend, everybody. Get ready for next week. I think we're going to have another tremendous week next week. So I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.